Hello friends and welcome back to another vlog. It's December, which is holiday baking season, which is something I love. December is usually a pretty busy month for me, but I always try to make time to get in at least a little bit of baking. And this year I did a little bit more. Instead of just regular holiday baking, I decided to do a couple of cookie experiments. I wanted to take a few cookie recipes and make them gluten and sugar-free. Since we'll be visiting my parents for the holidays, I wanted to have some gluten-free and sugar-free options that my mom, who can't have those things, could enjoy. So first up, I'm gonna make a ginger molasses cookie. This is not like a ginger snap, it's a chewy cookie packed full of spices, very good. And then the second cookie is a chocolate cookie with white chocolate chips. Traditionally uses white morsels, which is a little bit different, but those are harder to find in sugar-free options. So if you're only interested in the actual recipes, you can find the timestamps in the description below. Otherwise, I'll kind of talk through the process I went through to go ahead and, remove gluten and sugar from these recipes. So if you're interested in that, stick around and I'll chat through it. So when it comes to substituting ingredients in a recipe, one of the best things to do is to get a notebook. So this is what I have this notebook specifically for recipe testing. That way I can document all of the different things I've tried and how the dough differed between different rounds of changes and how it bakes differently and all of that. So I've got an example here. These are for the ginger molasses cookies, which you can see kind of in the background. So one trick is if you need to substitute multiple things, so if you need to substitute both the flour and the sugar, I'd recommend trying to find a recipe that already has one of those substitutes so that it's easier to convert. So for these ginger molasses cookies, I actually had a recipe that I had tried and was struggling to get gluten and sugar-free and something that was actually decent. So I went and found this gluten-free recipe from the Loopy Whisk. If you are gluten-free, they actually have a ton of great recipes and a lot of good baking tips, so definitely check them out. So that was kind of my tip number one. Start with one substitution. If you have to replace multiple things, that'll make it easier to convert the recipe. So for this one, I already had the gluten-free recipe. I just needed to replace the sugar. And let me show y'all the ingredients that I'm substituting. So for the gluten-free side, I'm using Bob's Red Mill gluten-free 1-to-1 baking flour. In the past, I've tried to replace things with almond flour or coconut flour, but what you really want if you're looking for a gluten-free flour is something that's a mix of different flours, because you're not going to get the same effects as you would with an all-purpose flour if you're only substituting with something like almond flour. So you can see on the ingredients here, this has sweet white rice flour, whole grain brown rice flour, potato starch, whole grain sorghum flour, tapioca flour, and xanthan gum. Not all gluten-free flour blends have xanthan gum, so it may be something you want to add in. It does help act as a binder, and there's typically only a small amount that's needed. And then on the sugar side, I am using Swerve, both the granular and the brown sugar replacements. Something to note about Swerve is I think it's 70% as sweet as regular sugar. So if you're not going to get the same amount of sweetness when using Swerve as a substitute, so you'll typically want to make that up in different ways. So what I did for most of these recipes was use honey as an extra way of kind of bringing up the sweetness, and then I'll talk about for the chocolate recipe what I did for that one instead. But both the brown and granulated sugar use erythritol. I don't know if I said that right, which you can use naturally on its own as well, but it's nice and convenient to already have these blends, and they work really well as a substitute. I do want to talk about Swerve for a minute here, because one thing to know is that it is not the same as sugar. It's not going to bake the same as sugar. So typically when you bake with Swerve, it's going to have a more gritty texture, and it's going to have a like cooling aftertaste. Now you can get around both of those things, but it does take some tweaking. So for the cooling aftertaste, you really need to enhance the other flavors in whatever it is that you're making. So in the ginger molasses cookies, I really needed to enhance the spices that were in there already. And then in the chocolate cookies, I enhanced the chocolate, so it was a stronger chocolate flavor. And that helps to eliminate that cooling aftertaste. Not everyone experiences that, but just something to note. And then for the gritty texture, anything that's baked with Swerve is best served warm. So if you make cookies and then you let them cool completely, they're gonna have more of a gritty texture than when they were warm. So you could always reheat the cookies in the oven for a little bit to kind of like help eliminate that every time you eat them, or it's not terrible, it's just a little bit different than sugar. And some people have suggested that they've had some luck, from what I've seen, of using the powdered sugar version. I haven't personally tried that, so I can't talk to that, but there's not a powdered sugar version of the brown sugar replacement, so you would have to add in extra molasses to substitute for that. So those are, out of breath, those are the replacements that I used. I just wanted to talk about them real quick. And then one other helpful tip is I'd actually recommend this book. It's called How Baking Works by Paula Fagoni. This is an older textbook. It's actually like, let me see if I can find, yeah, there's actually, discussion questions, exercises, and experiments, all kind of cool stuff in here. There's all kinds of great information in here. You can see I've got little book tabs here for helpful information. So there's all kinds of cool stuff that goes into, the actual chemistry behind things. So if you're wanting to substitute ingredients, it really helps to understand what the original ingredients actually do in a recipe. So this was a super helpful resource. I relied on this a lot, just to understand, well, this cookie spread once I substitute an ingredient. What is causing that? How can I fix it? So this is a great resource. It's a little bit older, and it does read like a college textbook, so if you're not into that, it might not be for you. But there's tons of great information in here. There is a section on actually substitutions, but it's a little sparse because there are so many more great options these days compared to when this book came out. So this was a big help, definitely helped my understanding of, how baking works and was super helpful for the process. All right, so next I wanted to go over kind of my documentation and the notes that I took as I was recipe testing. So I started off with the base recipe for round 1. So these only have the ingredients. I didn't list the directions. Those are on the original recipes that I have elsewhere, but the ingredients are what really matters here. So I have all of the ingredients documented, including my replacements. So I've already factored in that I'm going to be replacing this 1-to-1 for each of the brown sugar and the granulated sugar. And then we kind of go into all of my notes here. So I took notes on the dough itself, how it kind of came together. You'll see a lot of notes about Swerve specifically and how it's, it's not the same as sugar, so it's not going to incorporate the same as sugar. And then I have some baking notes about how long. I did different times for different batches to kind of see how that would affect things, if it was underdone, overdone, all of that. And then I have a few notes about, you know, how the taste was. There was a cooling aftertaste from the swerve, maybe some ideas around what to do. So then we go into round 1 results. So I just took a few notes about the final bake time that I wound up landing on, the yield, the spread, the sweetness levels, the color, crumb and texture, and then the flavor, and then any other notes on what I wanted to do. And then importantly for working with swerve, I wanted to document on day 2, because once the swerve has cooled completely, it kind of recrystallizes and it will kind of change the texture and maybe have a more pronounced aftertaste, which I noted there. And then for round 2, these are just the ingredients again. So I basically reduced the amount of brown sugar and replaced that with 8 grams of honey instead. And then everything else is the same, other than I increased the amount of spices. I like a spicier cookie, and I felt the original recipe was really lacking in spices, especially when you're trying to mask the swerve aftertaste. Alright, and then round 2 notes, a lot less dough notes. It was basically this pretty much similar. A few more baking notes, got rid of the cooling aftertaste here. Tried again with a few different bake times, and then a few notes on things that I could change for the next round. This round overall, though, went really well. This is for the ginger molasses cookies again. So for round 2 results, I just took some notes on, again, the same factors, mostly pretty similar, no more aftertaste, got a much better flavor, but it was a little bit dry. So for round 3, I kept the same amount of sugar, but I added 2 extra grams of honey, and I kept everything else the same. So I just wanted to try adding a little bit more honey to kind of work through the dryness that I was seeing from round 2. And then, as you can see, I noted that this was the winner. So these did come out quite a bit more dark brown, which I'll show. Because of the honey, it really browns really nicely. So it does look a little bit dark, but the flavor is much better and it's really strong, not as dry. So here are the 3 rounds of testing for the ginger molasses cookies. So you can see that as we get further along, we get a lot darker in color, a lot more browning here. And the reason for that is we started adding a little bit of honey here, and then we added a little bit more honey here. So that tends to brown pretty well, so that's why you get a little browner color. I think I like this color better anyway. It's a nice golden brown, a little dark, but definitely not burnt. And especially when you have these next to each other, the first one just looks so pale. It doesn't really make me think of ginger, I guess, like gingerbread or ginger cookies. Definitely not molasses. And then for the white morsels chocolate cookies, as I noted, this is actually my grandma's recipe. Unlike the ginger molasses cookies, this doesn't have any initial substitutions. So I'm substituting both the flour and sugars for this, whereas the other one already had the gluten-free flour blend. So again, just having my list of ingredients with the noted substitutions and the amounts of everything. I just did a 1-for-1 substitution in this case. I wanted to see how it would come out and then adjust accordingly. And then again, I have my dough notes, same as before. Still same issues with swerve. It's just not the same as sugar. But it did kind of come out very similar to the original recipe. That's a cookie recipe I make all the time. It's probably one that I'm most known for if you've met me IRL. So it actually came out pretty similar to the original, other than being a little bit thicker. And then we've got our baking notes. So I actually had to bake a little bit longer than the original recipe, but they tasted pretty similar, just not as sweet. And unlike the ginger molasses cookies, I actually didn't get any aftertaste after the first round of substitutions. So I think the chocolate flavor was really what kind of helped mask that. And then I had a quick note about, Lily's white chocolate chips. I don't have any here because I used them to show, but that was my substitution for the white morsels, and they're definitely different. White morsels and white chocolate chips aren't exactly the same, so there's already a difference there, and then you're working with sugar-free option. So then you'll see my round 1 notes. We've got, again, the same things I documented before. The sweetness was a little mild, but the flavor was still chocolatey, and they were nice and fudgy still. And I just had a note about adding a little bit of honey to kind of increase the moisture and sweetness. And then that they were a little bit more hardened up on day 2 once they had completely cooled. And the texture definitely got grittier once they cooled completely. So looking at round 2, I actually only did 2 rounds of this one. I was originally going to add a little bit of honey, which I saw noted above, but instead I decided to try something else, which was blooming my cocoa powder and mixing that in with the wet ingredients instead of with the dry. So by blooming the cocoa powder, it was just bloomed with, you see here, 180 degree Fahrenheit hot water, which I'll show in the recipe. That really helps draw out the chocolate flavor a bit more, and also because it's now a more liquid base than just dried cocoa powder, you're getting more of the wet ingredients, which kind of helped with the lack of moisture that I noted I might add a little bit of honey for. And then round 2 results. This recipe definitely makes a lot more than the ginger molasses cookies, but round 2 definitely came out well. It definitely has a richer chocolate taste. The texture's still a little gritty, but I think that that's just kind of the nature of these. I'd like to continue doing some experiments on this one to see if I can get rid of the grittiness of these cookies, but overall the taste is still good, it's still there, and I think it's a great option for going gluten and sugar-free while still getting a good result. And these are the chocolate and white morsels cookies. I only had time to do 2 rounds for this one. So the first round is a little bit lighter in color. It still has good flavor. There's no aftertaste from the swerve. And then the second round is a little bit darker. I don't know if it can show up well on the camera, but it's a little bit grainier. I don't think the swerve mixed quite as well in these ones. And the only difference that I did for this one, I bloomed the cocoa powder. And both are still not quite where I would like them to be. I think that they both get a little gritty from the swerve. So it'll take a little bit more testing, I think, before I'm super happy with these, but they do taste good. So that is good. So that is all of my talking. I just talked at y'all for a long time, and I'm ready to share the recipes with y'all. So let's go jump into those. we are back from Blue Genie Art Bazaar, so I wanted to show y'all what all we got. A lot of these are Christmas gifts for people. Luckily this will be posting after, so good there, but honestly all the vendors there are really great, so it's hard to not buy everything, but we mostly focus on gifts. And then if you know us, we love corgi themed items. So Kaiju Cutso had some adorable things. We've got this little corgi dressed as Godzilla trying to get the sushi. This little sticker. And then a matching air freshener, which I'm excited about. And I think their card shows, yeah. Waffles the corgi. They make lots of cool stuff, so definitely check them out. Kaiju Cut and Sew on Instagram, and Waffles the Corgi. And then we got some chocolate. This is for us because I've heard very good things about this brand and I wanted to try it. So we got a lemon coriander, which sounded pretty good. And then a dark masala chai, which I'm excited to try. And then we got this anxiety calming tea. It's just really cute packaging. There's a lot in here. It's loose leaf tea. But I also like that it comes with the tea ball, so that it makes for an easy gift for someone who may not have a tea ball or a way of easily brewing loose leaf tea, so that's really nice. Plus anti-anxiety stuff is great. And then I got this for the Bee Sisters. This is organic elderberry syrup kit to make your own elderberry syrup. Then this was a really cool thing they had. This is from the Fox's Tail. They had these really cool upcycled map ornaments. So this one is around like New York area, which is where my partner is from. So they had a whole collection of these. So this was really cool. They had lots of places around Texas and the US in general and all over the world. So it was really neat to see all the different places put into a really neat little special ornament. And then we've got this cute bookmark. This was really funny, made me laugh. So it's R2-D2. This is the page you were looking for. So this is from North to South Designs. They had a whole collection of different bookmarks that were all like different pop culture and all kinds of like literary figures. So they had all kinds of cool options, but that one made me laugh. And then I got two of these, one for me and one for my sister. They're chef's knife hair clips. So these are really cute. I've been wanting to get like a cute hair clip, and I thought my sister might like one too, so I got one for her. These are from Vinca. They have all kinds of really cute hair accessories, earrings. They do have a physical store in Austin, but they also have an online shop, so you can get all kinds of cool things. I saw like smaller versions of this. They had little bobby pins that had little miniature chef's knives on them, even lightsabers, all kinds of cool stuff. And of course we had to get something for Sophie. So Fabulous Paws had these cute little mini bandanas. I really like these kind. They go over the collar. It makes them easy without having to deal with tying them. And these are a good size for her, because a lot of times I'll buy bandanas online and they're way too big and I have to like fold them weird and all that. But we got a little sushi one for her. She's always trying to steal my partner's sushi. And then this one, it's like holiday dinosaurs. It's kind of hard to show. You can kind of see him. He's skiing in there. But very cute. She will like those. And then we got a couple more stickers for gifts. So this one is from Floating Forest Studio. So this is just a little cat eating pizza. It's so funny. And then I got a set of stickers from Lux Cups. So they're just like little adorable creatures. So we got like a little wizard frog, axolotl. I think there's a mushroom and my favorite, Trash Life. So I got those, and then this is a gift for someone who loves axolotls, so also got them a little notepad and a keychain. So that's what we got. Lots of other cool stuff there. If y'all are in Austin, definitely check it out. They do this art bazaar every year around the holidays. I think it starts in November. And they also do other events too, so definitely want to check them out. And if you're not in Austin, come visit.